Hey there, and welcome to Behind the Visual, a podcast where I interview the people responsible for creating all the videos and images you see out in your world every single day. I am your host, lifestyle and advertising photographer Mark Hansen. And today, my guest is going to be Desiree Kennedy. Desiree is a senior producer of still photography and video, as well as a talent casting director. Desiree has worked with some of the biggest companies in the business, including Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Volvo, HBO, Visa, etc. If I sat here and listed everybody she's worked with, we'd be here for about another 5 minutes. So let's talk to Desiree and see how this whole thing goes. Nope, he wasn't amused at all. All right, so I'll tell you what. Why don't you tell me how you became a producer?
Well, I went to School of Visual Arts for photography. And when I graduated, I ended up with a job with a fashion and beauty photographer. I was with her for 5 years. I was her studio manager and first assistant. And after I left her place, I wanted to freelance because I wanted, to be a photographer. And I had been testing and shooting and on weekends at her studio, which she was nice enough to let me use. And it was a nice studio. It was a penthouse studio.
Nice.
The back part was like a solarium where my desk was. It was all windows.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was on 5th and 20th, which was very convenient because you
Really?
could just go downstairs to Dugal and drop off the film, pick up the film. That's when the photo district was the photo district. Okay. That's what there was photography. It was before the landlords decided to call it Silicone Alley and raise the rents from like $7 a square foot to $35 a square foot.
Well, that's why CBGB's left.
Yeah. So I figured since I was a first assistant, I would just, hit up photographers to be an assistant. And this is at a time where a lot of photographers didn't hire women because, we can't carry heavy things, which was ridiculous because to get to Trudy's studio, you had to get on the 12th floor and walk up these stairs.
Oh, wow.
And can I tell you how many times I've lugged 80-pound things of lights and shit up and down there? I'm like, what do you mean we can't carry things? So I started interviewing with photographers. And at the time, there was a photographer named Rick Cohn. He was a big still life tabletop guy. And he would shoot commercials for Revlon. He was very well known. And his wife repped him. So I met with his wife and she says, "You were a studio manager for 5 years. Why do you want to be an assistant? You should be a producer." I said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Well, I just signed this guy and he's up for all these big jobs. I'll introduce you." Oh, okay. So that's how I became a producer. I ended up being with a photographer exclusively in-house, Mike LaMonica. And the first job I did with him was the Microsoft job. And that's how I became in-house because it was a lot of things went crazy on that job, but because I handled it really well, he was just like, can you come to my office tomorrow and help me organize some stuff? And I was sure. So for like three and a half years, I did a reverse commute to Westchester, to New Rochelle. And then we were in, we were in the New Rochelle, Mount Vernon area. So I was doing reverse commutes, which was crazy because when you're in Grand Central Station and you're trying to catch a train and all these people are trying to go to work, you kind of get body surfed out, And the same thing when you're coming home. It's like, I'm trying to get out and all these people are trying to get into Grand Central. But it wasn't bad, it was a quick commute. And the time I lived in the East Village, I'd just jump on the 6 train, do that. But the Microsoft job was
And this is your first, the Microsoft job was your first producing job?
No, well, I did production but we did mostly studio
as a studio
work.
manager,
Yeah, we did mostly we did a couple location jobs in Central Park and at Rockaways and things like that. But this was like a very big thing. So they wanted a location. They wanted a home. They wanted a home with a large front lawn. And because the concept was to put put this family's, all their belongings, you know, on the front, and then find a family. So this was a very DIY thing too. So Michael and I drove around New Rochelle and Larchmont, like the richer areas where there's nice houses. And we knocked on a few doors, and he was glad that I was with him because he didn't want to look like a weirdo, you know.
Oh yeah.
So we would explain what we were doing, and we'd hand up some promos to them so they could see he's legit. And we found a couple people interested, and we took pictures, and we sent them, you know, we sent them over. And this is when this is when the internet was very new, and it was all dial up. So, you know, we FedExed the photographs to San Francisco. And God, I'm dating myself. Wow.
No, I understand. I used to run to the lab, and I mean, as soon as the shoot was over, I'd run. I wouldn't even go to dinner with the crew or whoever. I'd run to the lab, drop the film off, eat something by myself, and wait on the film to come back so I could check it out.
No, I got so good at it after a while. My boss, if we did a shoot on a Thursday and it was summertime, she had a home in the Hamptons. She'd just be like, you know, you take care of the clip test. So I'd look and I'd be like, this needs another half, this needs a quarter, you know. So I got good at doing that. And I used to be able to load a Hasselblad without looking. And I tried it like 2 years ago, and I dropped the film, and the film went everywhere. I was like, oh, well, can't do that again.
Well, the fact that you can do it is good. I had an assistant in Miami, South Beach, and this guy said he just came off 10 days of working with some big photographer who did this big catalog shoot. And I had a Hasselblad and a Mamiya, and I gave him the Hasselblad, and he just looked at it like, how do you load this?
I could load a Mamiya, a Pentax 645, you know, everything, yeah. But because I used to, when we had big jobs and we hired 2 other assistants, I would work camera and keep the tech sheet and keep you know, number everything, keep you know, charge of everything. And the thing that used to annoy me is when the guy assistants would come over, and this happened with Michael on one job, and I was in charge of the film. I used to have my contractor's apron, you know, with all the pockets and my Sharpies and my stickers, and he had 6 cameras, and we had to rotate the cameras because if something went wrong, not all your film is going to be messed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was doing my thing, and one of the assistants came over and loaded the camera. Okay, and I'm like, get away. So Mike picks up the camera and he's shooting, right? And all of a sudden he just puts it up in the air and he goes, I'm shooting air. And I just was like embarrassed. I was like, guys, stay away from the cameras. That's my job. I'm the organized one here. You know,
Was that one where they forgot to wind it? Because I remember I used to have, you'd have to, you have to wind it, and then you'd have to wind the camera on the Mamiyas, I think it was.
Well, this was a Nikon.
Okay, yeah. 35.
But I was just stay away from the cameras. You're not helping me, you know. But so we were driving around, and we found this house. It was like owned by a surgeon, and we explained everything, and they was like interested. So the art director liked that house. So we did all the things, you know, we'd have to do, and I had to find a cherry picker. Luckily enough, in New Rochelle, they have one of those big equipment places. So it was like they drove it in, and it, you know, the high thing, and put it up.
Yeah,
and everything.
big old basket and all that.
And they showed Michael how to work it, because they wanted to shoot, you know, and you can see from the tear it's shot from above.
Right.
And so I found that, and this is pretty much. Thank God for the business to business white pages, because that's how I basically found, you know, there was no Google back then. That was a very useful tool. So we had that, and then we had to cast it, and we found a husband and wife that were professional actors, commercial models, and they had a little boy who was about 7. And so we had to find a little girl, so to make the family. And so we did that. And we just cast it by cards. And, which I would never do now, because with digital, people like fiddle around with things, and then that person walking in is not the same. So,
well, even with cards, especially if you're shooting kids, there'll be a shot. You get the kid, oh, this is great. We typed this kid, and then you find out when the kid shows up, that was from 2 years ago. They hadn't shot anything new.
No, but a lot of the smarter kids agents take school photos, like current, snapshots, especially with babies. And I still shot Polaroids of babies up until like 10 years ago. I still have a whole bunch of Polaroid Spectra film in the closet. I wonder if it's still good. It's still sealed in the foil. So what else I did is we decided, because these people, their stuff is nice, we'll hire movers to move things, put them on the and it was going to be overcast, chance of rain that day. Oh. So we'd have the movers, on set. And so
you're moving these people's actual furniture, their furniture out of their house.
We took things out of their house, and then we brought things as well, like surfboards and things like that. Right. So yeah, that's why I hired professional movers, and they had all the tarps, and they had like blankets, and they handled everything. He said they know how to handle stuff, and we hired a company in Larchmont, so they know how to deal with rich people's nice things.
Right.
So we had movers, and then I said, I can recommend some assistants. Do you have assistants? He said, oh yeah, I work with this guy, Marcel, and this guy, John. I said, oh, okay, great. I was like, that's fine. So we set everything up, and then we come to set, and I meet Marcel and I meet John, and they're both older guys. And they're both older guys that want to be photographers. And that's like a red flag right there. So we get everything out on the front lawn, and we get it set up to where everyone, creative director likes it. Oh, I forgot. This is the first thing that happened. We went to go pick up the creative director at his hotel. He was staying in the city. Okay. And I'm waiting for the makeup artist. And I'm just like, where is she? So I go across the street to a payphone, and I call her. I paged her like 3 times, and she calls me back. And I was like, where are you? Oh, I'm still on set. And I'm just like, you couldn't find anybody to replace you? So I called Michael. He gave me a few more names, and I called, and we're talking, it's like 6:30 in the morning. Oh. So we found this other woman that worked with him, and she said, I live in the West Village. I'll be right there. We were in Soho. So that was the first thing.
That was convenient.
Makeup artist doesn't show up. So we get to the set, and everybody, the talent's there, and everything's on the front lawn, and we're getting ready to shoot. So Mike and John go into the basket, and they go up, and they start shooting Polaroids, because the light's changing. It's an overcast day. So they're shooting Polaroids and everything. And so Mike comes down, and he goes to show the art director the Polaroids to see what he thinks. In the meantime, both John and Marcel light up, and they're holding cameras. They have coffee, cigarettes, and they have holding cameras. And I'm just like, really? Really, guys? And they also proceeded to have lit cigarettes in their mouth, unloading cameras. God. And I'm just like, what is with these guys? I don't know. So we're getting ready to shoot, okay? And we're shooting, and the light changes. And John doesn't have the light meter. Marcel has the light meter in his back pocket, and he's down the end of the driveway getting a coffee. And the cherry picker makes a lot of noise. The engine, it's like really loud.
Yeah.
So I like yelling, Marcel, we need the light meter. So I started walking towards him, going, Marcel. I'm not yelling at him. I'm yelling over the machine. He's like 6'5", a big guy. He looks at me, and I thought he was going to rip my head off. Don't you dare yell at me! What the? He starts cursing me. I'm yelling. I'm like, I don't care. Give me the light meter. And I take the light meter, and I go running back. And I handed up. And I was just like, what a jerk, And first of all, I'm a woman. You don't talk to women like that. Especially if you're a big dude. I really thought he was going to hit me. Oh. And I wasn't yelling at him. So we start going. And on a chaise lounge, a beautiful canvas-covered chaise lounge, was Mike's brother's 100-year-old pug named Noel. And so Noel's sitting on the chaise, and we also had Mike's dog Bubba that they were holding him on a leash. So we start shitting. So the little boy starts making faces at Mike. He's like,
oh God.
And Mike's getting really pissed because it's gonna rain, okay?
Yeah.
So I go over to the parents. I'm like, can you talk to him? So the parents are talking to him, and he's being a brat. He was bored. He didn't want to be there.
Right.
So we get an idea. We're like, let's just put him in the background and have him jumping up and down on the bed. That'll solve everything. So weather's getting bad. And we're just like, it's going to rain any second. So Mike starts, we have the kid jumping up and down on the bed. It's looking good. All of a sudden, Noel the pug pukes on the chaise lounge. I'm standing next to the makeup artist. I grab a bunch of tissues. I take the puke. I throw it out of camera range, right? I put Noel on the ground. I flip the cushion, and I put Noel back, and I run out. I must have done it in 20 seconds. The makeup artist, creative director, they're standing there going, we've never seen anybody move that fast before. I don't know if I can move that fast now, but yeah, it was like that was the cherry on the cake of the whole thing. It was like Noel puking,
Oh
so all of a sudden, we start feeling raindrops. So we're like, ooh, guys, you got it. Let's get it. And luckily they had a big 2-car garage.
Yeah.
So some things went in the house and some things just went into the garage wrapped. And it was pretty good because nothing got wet, which
That's impressive.
Damaged. So then when the sun came out, it then all of a sudden went from being overcast to sunny. We put everything back out and then we finished. And it was just like crazy because at one point when we were eating lunch, I went to go talk to Mike and give him a rundown of what's been going on. I told him, I said, can't believe the makeup artist didn't show up. And I told him about Marcel. I said, you didn't see what happened when I was trying to get the light meter. And I explained it to him. I said, these guys are not good. They're really, yeah, I don't think anybody ever said that to him. Oh, and the other thing, John he was a gay man and he shot erotic nudes of men. I caught him showing his book to the creative director.
Oh.
The creative director is also a gay man. And I'm just like, and then I told Mike, I'm like, oh, and by the way, John was showing his nude portfolio of erotica to the creative director. And it's like such bad form. It's really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care what's in your portfolio. If you're the assistant, you shouldn't be over there showing it to the creative director, showing it to the client. That's not your gig. That's not your job.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've had assistants give their cards to clients on set.
Wow.
Yeah. And I tell the photographer, well, we're never working with him again. So, but these two guys, they obviously had assistantinitis. They're kind of too old for the gig, but they're can't get work on their own. And I've dealt with it many times over the years, where the assistant is resentful of the photographer and kind of does all these passive aggressive things on set. And it's just bad. It's just like, you know what? Put up flyers and shoot headshots to make money. Don't be an assistant. Don't be on anybody's set but yours because it's just bad energy. I almost had a photographer get a fist fight with an assistant because the photographer was so pissed off because he would tell the guy to move something or do something, he wouldn't do it.
I get it. I had an assistant one time. It was a 5-day shoot and I'd hired this guy and he had just had some stuff published in German Marie Claire, the month before. And so I hired him and the whole first 2 days, he is constantly looking at his phone, or
Yeah.
he's going over to check his email on the computer because I guess he couldn't. This was a while ago, a long time ago, so
Mhm.
he couldn't see it all on his phone. So he'd go over and check it on the computer that was in the studio, and then he'd come back over, and then you'd hear him back on the phone again. And he was late every single day. And one time I was shooting and I heard him talking on the phone right behind me. So I stopped shooting and made him go adjust a light just to get him off the phone. The light was
Mhm.
fine, but I made him go adjust it. Told him the morning of day two when he showed up late, about 15, 20 minutes late, 30 minutes late, something like that. I was like, don't show up late tomorrow. I mean, you've been late 2 days in a row. I said, if you show up late tomorrow and you know you're going to be late, you should just turn around and go back home.
Yeah.
And so he showed up late, and he asked my first assistant. He was like, "Was he serious?" And my first assistant, Robert, was like, "Yeah, I think he was." So the third day, he shows up late again. So I talked to him about it again. The day's over, and Robert and I just sat there and talked. And I was like, "Find me somebody else." And Robert found me another one, and this guy lost his mind. I called him and told him, I was like, "Don't come back the next 2 days. I told
Mhm.
you, we're done." And this guy, I mean, he completely lost it. He told me he was going to sue me. He's going to get his lawyer involved. And I was like, first of all, you don't have a lawyer. So don't tell me that you got to find one. I know you don't have one. And he said, well, you can pay me. He said, tell you what, you can either, let's, we'll do this. I'll come back for the next 2 days like we are supposed to, and it'll be fine. You just pay me. And I was like, that's not happening. He said, well, then we could also do where I won't come for the next 2 days. And because we have this agreement, you just pay me for the 2 days I'm not there. I was like, that's not happening either. And he was like, well, I'll have to
Was
sue
this a
you
New York
then.
assistant?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think it was because he had just been published in German Marie Claire that he
Yeah.
thought he was, and we were shooting a pregnancy and baby magazine, but it
Mhm.
was like this special edition they only put out like every other year, and it was a full 5 days of shooting. And I think he just thought he was better than whatever we were shooting. I'm
Right.
guessing. I don't know, but yeah, I never heard from him again. I paid him for the 3 days he was there, but I didn't pay him for those other two. Never
Yeah.
heard from
No. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's yeah. There's something called set etiquette
him. Yeah.
that when I was running a production company, I would always have assistants, and I was always looking for good assistants, and I would explain like Desiree's rules, because I have rules, and I explain it to them and everything, and I had some good people, but they were so overwhelmed by the intensity of the office and the way I work. I'm one of those people that I don't want to repeat myself.
Yeah.
I will give you detailed instructions, and that's it. Because I got 1,000,005 things to do. I can't, So I had this one assistant. She showed up to set in gold gladiator sandals, a really short mini skirt, and a tank top. And my rules are no open-toed shoes, okay?
All right.
And no tank tops. It's not professional. And she was wearing a lot of makeup. She was from like Jersey or Long Island. I'm from Jersey, so don't anybody get offended. I used to have big hair. And I was just like, I did everything I could. I said to everyone on set, the clients and everything, this was Kmart. I used to shoot Kmart about 6 times a month. Wow. And it was all their in-store stuff. It was a great client.
Yeah.
And I became very close to the people from the agency. And they were just like, she looks like a hooker. I was like, So we did everything we could to keep her out on errands because no one wanted to look at her. And I did pull her aside at one point, and I was just like, you're dressed very inappropriately. I don't even like skirts on set. It's like wear sneakers or comfortable boots or whatever, because a lot of guys wear those Rockport kind of boots. Yeah. And no skirts and no tank tops. Because on a woman in a tank top, it's too sexy. Yeah. It's like, I want you to be taken seriously. Right. And I was actually on a shoot. It's so funny. I was on a Fidelity investment shoot in San Francisco, and my local producer was the art buyer for the Microsoft shoot.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Phil Pavliker. So I hired him because he has his own motorhome, this beautiful moho, like totally decked out for, So I was like, you're going to be my local and we'll use your motorhome. His assistant shows up, this real pretty girl, and she's wearing platform flip-flops and a white tank top. So I'm sitting in the motorhome with Phil, and I was like, your assistant. I said, my assistants would never dress like that. He says, what do you mean? I said, flip-flops? Really? And I said, the white tank top. And he was like, oh, I don't see anything wrong with it. The timing was perfect. So perfect. She opens the door, comes bounding up the moho stairs, flip-flop, catches the stairs. She face plants at the motorhome. I was like, I rest my case.
Oh my God.
But then again, I've shot with Russel James, and he and his first, they look like surfers, because they're both, Australian. And they were wearing flip-flops in February when it was snowing.
Yeah, I've seen video of him shooting, and he seems like he's always in flip-flops.
Mm-hmm.
And the first video I ever saw behind the scenes of him shooting, it was Victoria's Secret thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he had one hot light on the girl,
Mm-hmm.
and he basically had an assistant stand over here with a camera in his hand, two more assistants around him, and he would just hold the button down and just burn through a roll of film, just like, and then switch out cameras, and then do it again with the exact same one. And the girl would just do her slow little moves, but he was just, he was burning it off as fast as he could shoot it.
Well, he shoots pretty quick. Luckily, because it was for cachet, which is like I call it cougar fashion.
Yes. Yeah.
and it was this agency. It was the same as Kmart. They didn't realize until the first time we shot all this that they needed to do fittings beforehand. Yeah. The stylist brought a seamstress, and so everything was being fitted the day of, and there was 12 shots to do. We didn't start shooting until 1:00 in the afternoon. And Russell and his crew, they do 8 hours.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. So I pulled the art buyer aside, and I was like, you guys, next time you do this, you have to do a fitting beforehand. Have them come up to the office, have the seamstress there, do the fittings. And so boom, we can just start shooting. So yeah, that was like, but he's really nice, and he shoots fast. And the first day we were shooting, we're at Pier 59. He likes to work there, and he likes to eat in a cafe.
Okay. So
we broke for lunch, and they were shooting Victoria's Secret in stage 3. So, and they were eating in the cafe. So it was like a big party, because Russell was in his crew and the models and the Victoria's Secret people. So it was really fun. It was very cool. Yeah, that was probably the best sit-down lunch I had at Pier 59.
Probably the prettiest too.
Yes. And what's the model's name? I've worked with her on Maybelline. Real famous one, the Brazilian.
Giselle?
No, the one with the the black.
God, I know who you're talking about. I can see her. Adriana Lima?
Yes.
Okay, thank God.
I worked with her beforehand on Maybelline. And she was sitting there, and I said, I don't know if you remember me, we worked together. She said, oh, yeah. And she was sitting, she had a little Maltese puppy on her lap. And I work with Maltese Rescue. I'm a Maltese person.
Oh, really?
So I was like dying. I'm like, can I hold your puppy? She said, oh, yeah, sure. So yeah, like I said, that was a great lunch.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And it was fun. Everybody on the Victoria's Secret crew is really, really nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and they all look like they have fun together, which when people work together a long time, it's like you could tell there's like a camaraderie, and it's more like friends. You're more like your friend. It's cool.
Yeah, I've had a few
photographers like that. We became friends, and then we became work. They became a client. Like, this person was my friend, and now all of a sudden he's my client. That's the best way to work. Because it adds a little more to the environment of your set.
Yeah,
when
I think it
everybody's
helps a
friends.
lot. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I was actually talking about getting new work. I was talking to Eric Morley, who's one of the co-founders of an agency out in LA called Blue Sea,
Hmm.
and he was talking about they got a huge job for a car company, and it
Hmm.
was because he was at a birthday party for his for a friend of his kid, and
Hmm.
his kid was there, and him and this guy from the car company just started talking and became friends. And the next thing you know, he's got the account. His company has the account for
That's
this car
great.
agency, and they're shooting the commercials.
Yeah, you never, that's the other thing about work. It's like you never know when you meet somebody and
Yeah,
then you explain to them, hey, well, this is what I do, you know? And I spent January basically, I'm glad I did, because when all this stuff goes away, I have like potential clients. I
yeah.
must have drank so much coffee in January. And I got to tell you, every photographer I sat with and met, the meetings were like an hour, hour and a half,
Oh yeah, I'm
because we
sure.
hit it off. Like
Yeah,
every person that I met in January, I hit it off with, and I can't wait for them to call me, because it's just like, this guy's cool. This guy's cool. You know.
right.
So yeah, and so it's pretty interesting. Um, so am I, and I also been talking to a couple of reps, um, because this one photographer.
Do they have reps for producers, or do you
No,
guys just have? Okay,
no, if only if you're an in-house producer,
right, right.
which is some of the jobs that I've actually applied for. They're very fashion-heavy agencies, and like I haven't done like a fashion shoot in quite a while, but my background is in fashion.
Yeah,
So it's like, and then the same thing with e-com. Um, I don't put studio stuff in my, unless it's got a set build. Okay.
right. Yeah,
I don't put, because any like monkey can hire a model, and it's like there's no production. It's a gray background in a studio, very controlled. Hire a model, and usually the client has models that they like, so they'll say, "Oh, you want to work with her and her and her."
yeah.
There's no production value. I put in stuff that's all location, and all different kinds of international models, and it's like everything I've put on my website and my blog is very production heavy.
Which I think is smart because as a photographer, if I'm looking for a producer and I see if I saw a ton of ecom, I'm like, what? Because I've shot ecom, so I know what it's like.
Yeah,
And like you said, there's nothing to it. It's
yeah.
one setup. The models are coming in. There's
I
not.
have
There's
friends that are in house at ecom studios, and they do very well. They make
Now
good
that's a
money.
different thing. I think if you're in house at a big studio that's shooting a lot,
Mm-hmm.
then being a producer is a different story because you are handling multiple sets, multiple models, multiple
Right.
photographers,
But
hair
like
and
I said,
makeup, all
that's
that
not that
stuff.
hard either.
Right.
Especially if it's studio. Unless you're building sets and you have to get the right set designer in and things like that. Because I have a terrible set story, and where the set was built and it was not built properly to scale. I'm not going to name names or client, but the idea was to put the model in a window, like it would look like Saks Fifth Avenue window.
Right.
And so they built this whole set, and the model goes in, she's wearing high heels. She's like 6'3" in the
Oh
heels.
God.
So she goes and stands behind the window as the mannequin, right? From here up, you couldn't see her. From here down, you could. It was not scaled properly. And
Wow.
there was product in the window, like large scale product. It was a nightmare. And the
So what'd
thing
you
is,
do? So this
we
model, you
shot
see her from
everything
like basically her boobs down.
we shot everything individually.
Oh wow.
And I think the shot was actually killed, because to put it all together, like they thought it was too much of a hassle. But and we're talking all these sets were like, it was a lot of money. And the thing is, the photographer, who is an amazing fashion and beauty photographer, she's based in Paris. The ad agency said they would never work with her again. And the thing is, she had nothing to do with it. Her
Yeah.
agent hired the set designer, because they're with the same repping agency. And she had nothing to do with the set. She didn't build the set.
Well, I
But
have noticed that photographers get blamed for everything that happens on set. So even if the
no,
makeup
producers
artist is
do. Producers do, actually.
Well, I end up paying the price for it somehow.
Hey, listen, I got blamed for an actress. We shot the print campaign of her for a pharma drug, and they wanted to hire her 5 months later when they do the TV commercial. And no one told me this until after the fact, after we wrapped and everything, that she was 3 months pregnant. So by the time they did the commercial, she was going to be really pregnant.
Wow.
And I got blamed for that.
Yeah, that's pretty wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of ruined my relationship with the agent and with the photographer.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like when all the stuff I do for the city, I am very by the book. I follow every rule from the film office and the location, especially if we're shooting like places in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
And I always have to tell the agency, like, we can't do that. You know, I had to explain that Grand Central Station is trademarked and you have to pay like trademark fees. And so I'm a goody two shoes. I follow the rules. But what was I going to say? I forgot where I was going to go with that.
That's
On
okay.
occasions. But yeah, no, and it's like I did this campaign we shot 5 boroughs in 5 days. It was for this launch of this app for parents of New York City children. And it's called Growing Up NYC. The first one was for like babies to 12-year-olds. And so they gave me their wish list. And we were shooting this in August. And the assumption was, well, we could shoot here. You could shoot summertime, you know. But I was like, every kid in New York City, unless they go away to camp, they go to day camps. So you're going to have all these kids around. That's just the way it is. Oh, okay. So they wanted to shoot at the Museum of Natural History. Well, if we got there at 5 a.m., we could shoot from 5 to 9.
Okay.
And we shot at the New York Hall of Science in Flushing, Queens. We did that. We ended up, you know, getting there very early because then we went to the park and shot the Sphere.
Right.
Which I had never been to, believe it or not. Being in New York as long as I have, I was like, this is so cool. And like the park rangers, we wanted the kids playing in the fountain. And the Parks Department was like, absolutely not. Meanwhile, there were people in the fountain. And so I found a ranger and I was like, this is what I was told. This is what it says. It even says on my permit. I was like, and they're in our shot. So can you do something? So I sent the ranger over. I was such a tattletale. And when we were shooting at Jane's Carousel, it was the same thing. We had to shoot really early before they opened for business. And so we're shooting, and all of a sudden we heard this buzzing sound. And we look over, and there's a camera crew over on the lawn with a drone.
Oh.
On the permits in red letters, it says drones prohibited. So we told the lady at Jane's Carousel, and she called up the park police. They were there in like 2 minutes, and they shut them down. Because what happened is my photographer, who is a FAA licensed drone operator, and 2 of the assistants, one who has, you know, who looks very scary and outrageous, they went over there, and they're like, my photographer's just like, no, we gotta shut this down. He's like, we're shooting kids. This is confidential stuff. Well, we're only shooting. And he's like, you can't have a drone here anyway. And so they're looking at us like, so they all walk away. And then the police showed up, the park police showed up, and shut them down. And I was like, nah. But that's the thing. This is what I was trying to say, is I follow the rules. Because if we pissed off somebody at one of the parks, especially the ones that are conservancies, they're not part of the Parks Department, or the Parks Department, they complain about us to their bosses. Then that goes down to either DOH, you know, DOH, and then it goes to City Hall, and then they call the agency, complain to the agency. The agency turns around and complains to me. It all falls down. The buck stops with me, basically. So that's why I'm just like, I don't want anybody from the Parks Department complaining. I don't want anybody from City Hall complaining. And sometimes we have people from City Hall on set, which sometimes helps because they
Oh,
show
I
their
think.
ID. They show their ID, and
Yeah.
I work for the mayor's office. Like, but no, I do everything by the rules.
Well, I think you have to, because if you don't and you do get busted and it does come back to you, then that hits your reputation. Then the next time you want to do something, you got to go through them. They're going to go, oh no, last time we worked with her, nothing went
Yeah.
well, so we're
Well,
not doing it again.
that's why the Parks Department, I have a good relationship with, and in the film office. Because if I have a question when I'm getting ready to permit, I ask them. Sometimes I get this one girl, Christy, I drive her crazy because I have a jerk extension. I ask a lot of questions because I just want to, because I don't want to, I've heard, I mean, I'm a still and, motion producer. I don't do TV or films, but I can imagine a lot of these film crews and, TV crews, they probably really piss off the film office. I'm sure they do. Because I've seen things. I used to live on 2nd Street and Avenue B, and this is the 90s, and this is when NYPD Blue, Law and Order, some other show that was on Channel 7, they all film in the East Village because they have free range. They can do whatever they want. And I've been, trying to get down, come home from work, walking down 2nd Street, and there's like these PAs and Teamsters go, I was like, I live here. I would just, it was so annoying. But yeah, and the funny thing about that kind of thing is I hired PAs to do crowd control on 5th Avenue and 34th Street.
Oh, how did
Empire
that
State
go?
Building. Well, I sent my assistant, okay? And she was managing the location. And the photographer puts up cones along the side on 34th Street and then sets up a 12 by 12 scrim in the middle of the sidewalk. So when I come to set to see how everything is going, I turn the corner and I'm like, oh, I almost had a heart attack. And the PAs are trying to get everyone to walk within the cones. And this one PA is like, I'm never doing that again. He's like, I went home and almost cried. He goes, I got cursed out so much by people telling me to F off, to F you. And I was like, sorry. So the scrim's in the middle. So the reason why I set my assistant, and this was smart of me to do, is because she's very, very pretty. Very, very sexy, very pretty. And very well spoken and smart. So the cops wanted to shut us down. She's like, we just need 10 more minutes. 10 minutes became 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Officer. And then we got the shot. We got it done. And it was just like, I literally almost had a heart attack. And they were talking like, this is not too, I mean, it was still when we were all still kind of like, everyone was nervous. And that's a landmark, after, post 9/11. But it wasn't, I mean, it was like 2005, I think. I don't know. But yeah, I was like, who puts a 12 by 12 square in the middle of the busy street?
Yeah, I can't imagine, because we did a shoot and it was just in a mall. So we showed up at the mall at 5:30 in the morning to shoot, because we were trying to get shot everything before everything opened. And we shut off one wing of the mall to shoot in that whole area. And there were mall walkers, these 60, 70-year-old women and men walking.
Little blue haired ladies.
Oh, yeah. And when you shut off that wing of the mall, they got mad. They got pissed off, and they started yelling at my assistants because they were yelling. So I can't imagine doing it in that area of New York. Yeah, I'm sure it was 10 times worse than what we experienced with the mall walkers.
Yeah. And that's when, we had permits and everything, but it's just, I don't think that would fly nowadays, especially over there, but and it was like, why did we have to shoot? I think they liked that marble wall, that side of the building.
Yep.
We should have done it on the other side, but it was really dark because, the alleyway on 35th Street,
right? It's
very dark over there. But yeah, there's been a lot of things like that. I've early in my career, we've gotten away with things, but people were a little bit more lax. But post 9/11, it's got a lot
Oh,
stricter.
9/11 changed everything. I
Yeah, and then
went to the Bank of America building to shoot something just for myself.
mhm,
And I was shooting a test for my book, and because they had these really cool elevator rows, and I
mhm,
wanted to shoot with the model and near there and framed in between them. And we started shooting, and there was I mean, there wasn't any barrier to get into there like there are now. So
right.
I just put her in there and we started shooting. And a security guy came over and asked if we had permission. And I said, well, I'm here and I'm shooting for, and I gave the name of a magazine that was around. And so he said, well, hold on a minute. Let me call upstairs. I went, oh, no. So he went over, he called upstairs to somebody, and the guy who he talked to was like, he came back and said, well, they said they don't remember getting any call from the magazine about you guys coming down here to shoot, but they like the magazine, so go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, so we got to finish shooting. But these days, there's no way. You can walk in the door and try to start doing that, you're getting kicked out.
Yeah. I worked on a video for Visa, and it was for the tap and go. Now it's become that fruition, but at the time they only had it on 96th Street stop on the 456.
Mm-hmm.
So we had permission from the MTA. I had to deal with Albertine Anderson, who used to be the person you had to go to get permission for things and everything. But because we were interviewing someone from the MTA about the tap and go, I just had to run a lot of stuff by her and get the insurance, railroad insurance and all that stuff. But there were rules. You can't show the passengers.
Right.
So we did a platform shot, and the photographer DP, he basically shot their feet coming off the train. And then we had a MTA cop with us, and we had another lady and we had a person from the media office with us. So we kind of did a lot of stuff because we were doing a shoot with the MTA in conjunction with Visa. But yeah, dealing with the subway thing is very difficult. We wanted to shoot something for the city, and all the city agencies are just their own entities onto themselves. So if you say, oh, well, we're shooting for this, they don't care. And so we wanted to do a shot on a subway, in a subway train. And I get told it's $35,000 to do that. And I said, but it's for the city, $34,000.
Oh, well, hey, look at that. You got a discount.
We ended up at the Transit Museum because it was a shot of a girl like passed out drunk on the train. So we ended up going to the museum because they have the orange. They have one of the newer, the more modern trains that have the orange seats.
Yeah.
And so we ended up shooting. That wasn't cheap either, but it was cool because they had old train cars, one from the 40s, one from the 30s. They had like fans at the top. So that was fun. But yeah, dealing with them is, I get calls from photographers from out of town. Oh, we want to shoot in the subway. We want to do this. I'm like, I said, first of all, when do you want to shoot this? Oh, we want to shoot this in 10 days from now. No, because they don't even answer your inquiry. The inquiry I made about the drunk girl shoot was, it was enough time to do it, but I didn't get a call back until 3 days before we were going to shoot.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I said they're not going to they have to deal with so much, and it's like, and then, well, can we do this? I have to explain to the out of towners. Okay, this is what you got to do, and I'm sure every producer out there is nodding their head because it's just something. And they used to have on the shuttle. You used to be able to, in Grand Central Station on the S's, you used to be able to shut that down for not a lot of money and shoot over there on one of those trains because you're out of the way of passengers. So they used to do it, and I thought they still did, and no. So
I heard it's almost impossible now to shoot if you want to shoot on a train like that. Mm-hmm. It's not logistically worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I heard. So
I
tell me
what's to that, but I'm not going to tell.
Yeah, you probably keep that one to yourself. I would.
If anybody wants to hire me, I will tell you.
There you go.
Got to pay me.
As they should, because if you got a secret for that, And yes. So tell me, what's the strangest thing, most interesting thing that's occurred to you since you've been in this whole business?
That I'm insane for doing what I do. Okay, honestly, I have certain set of things I do and ways I do things. And the reason I have these set ways is because something went awry in the past. So anything that goes awry in the past, you learn from it. And I honestly learn something new every job I do. I can say that almost, over 25 years in the business, I always learn something. And that's good, because when I stop learning things, that's when I think it's time to go.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the city stuff, a lot of the shoots are in the studio, but one of the best things that I got out of doing those castings was I meet some of the most interesting people that I would never meet in my life, because I'm middle-aged, straight white lady. And I can't tell you how I've become an advocate of the trans community. And I have about 70 trans friends on Facebook. And I would never have met these people if it wasn't for these castings that I do. I've cast everything from, disabled people, LGBTQ, HIV plus, HIV positive. And I would never meet these people if I wasn't doing those kind of jobs. Yeah, there's studio shoots, but the castings are great because I have to do a lot of research, and I reach out to all these organizations and all these people. And I have it, the client calls me the trans whisperer. Listen, one of the people we work with, Leif Ashley, is doing movies. He's doing all these things. And he came to a casting that I did for female to male transitioning and how to do it healthfully. So I had to hire trans men, all different ranges of transition.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I knew who to call. I called a former assistant of mine who used to date a trans man. And I said, help me. I don't know what to do. And she pointed me in the direction of this website / magazine. I contacted the people that run it, and they put it on their social media.
Oh, wow.
And I got like 68 people came to the casting.
Very smart.
Yeah, it was really good. So, and I worked on Seven King, is a trans man who is a director, has a series on YouTube called Eden's Garden. It's about trans men of color and their lives. It's like a soap opera. And he did a movie about the ballroom scene. And this is before Pose came out. And I worked on the casting with him, so I'm going to get a credit. So I'm getting my first movie credit.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I wouldn't be friendly with these people if it wasn't for those castings. And it's also, like I said, it's made me a really strong advocate, especially of trans women of color, who have the highest murder rate in the LGBTQ community.
Really?
Yeah, even like amongst women, they have the highest murder rate. Every week I go and I see something about some trans woman of color being killed. And it's really awful. But yeah, so those are some of the like the people I meet when I used to do Image Library before the recession. I was the queen of Image Library. And when you do, you have to do where they have to do the things for different markets. Well, this is going to be for Japan. This is going to be for Korea. This is going to be for China. And Asian people come in, and I have a thing on the bottom saying, what is your nationality? And I had this Chinese guy who I ended up booking on other shoots, and he became my best friend, starts yelling at me. It's illegal for me to ask that. And I said, well, this is, we're doing regions. We're doing regional casting here. So if being Chinese or being Korean, and I put you in marketing for China, that's not going to fly. Okay. And I explained it I said, if you don't want to write it, you can leave, because I don't know where to put you.
Yeah.
And then that shut him down really fast. And he kind of looked like an ass. All these people are standing around going,
I'm sure.
I don't know where to put it. And so that's why when I get these calls that are non-regional, and they ask me for Asian, I start asking questions. Then no, we just want an Asian person. We don't care what they are. I'm like, okay. I said, you have to understand where I'm coming from.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and the same thing. I did a couple of shoots for GE India, and that was interesting. And yeah, it's just I find a lot of that stuff interesting. And shooting, I like shooting in New York, but I find a lot of the doing the permits and all that kind of stuff laborious.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I preferred it. I just did a job for Memorial Sloan Kettering, and we were in a nice big house in Westchester. You know, they had a big living room area. It was perfect for staging, and I was just like, I prefer being at home. And during the recession, when I went on my own, I ended up doing a lot of pharma because that's who was really spending money at that time.
Right.
And I think I did like 8 shoots in Montclair, New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I became very friendly with the permit lady. She's very nice.
You did.
Yes. I was like, hey, this is Desiree. Oh, hi, how are you? Well, we have another house. And it was just because I guess the homes there are very, and they only started hiring someone to handle permits and everything because the Sopranos, Tony Soprano's home, the exterior,
right? Oh yeah,
was in Montclair, and they ended up pissing off all these people.
Oh,
and this is like a wealthy neighborhood where they shot,
yeah.
and so I was like, the Sopranos ruined it for everybody. But they have a rule too, that if you have your home up for filming or photography, you can only do it twice a year.
Really?
So cap it at 2. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Montclair was my second home for a while.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Everybody watching, listening, if you guys like this, thumbs up it, like it, subscribe. Yep. Keep paying attention to us, and we'll be back for more. So Desiree, thank you. As far as where to find you, the website, DesireeKennedy.com, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it on the little description as well.
And you can put my email up there too.
Okay. Cool. We'll do that also.
Which you have.
Yep, I sure do.
All right. Well, it was good talking to you. Now I'm going to go out with my bandana over my face and run some errands.
All right. Well, enjoy. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.